Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. I am continuing the reading of The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. We are in Chapter 5, Part 2, which is page 55 at the part of A Natural Spiritual Path Based on Universal Laws. Thank you to all the subscribers that have recently subscribed and the subscribers that have returned. And I would like to invite all the people that have not subscribed. Now would be a good time to do so. And you can hit that like button, everybody, as well. So without further ado, here we go. A natural spiritual path based on a universal laws. My next course involved how the Atlantean teachings came about and what they were based on. It was to be given by the elder monk Zarathustra. I'd heard on the grapevine that he'd had long ago originally come from Germany. He was quite well studied and intellectual from what I'd seen of him so far. I liked him, and he even let me be involved in some very sophisticated vibrational experiments he was conducting, which gave me the foundation for my later vibrational studies and developments. He had a great scientific insight into such matters and was perfect for teaching this course. The beliefs and teachings that the children of the Law of One had and have were not formed based on faith. Most of the basis of them came from Atlantis, and thus to us, our knowledge, philosophies, and practices are simply gleaned from the scientific facts of universal laws that govern all things in the universe, including the use of the mind and energy. They were merely the results of observations of universal forces that are involved in the practical applications of our spiritual and physical existence. Thus, even today, understanding the substance of even the ancient beliefs require no faith, but rather a certain quality of intuitive logic. In fact, the path urges us not to take the teachings on faith, but to experience God and higher consciousness directly. That way we can really know rather than just take something on faith and hoping really bad that it's true. There is no more powerful way to change your life in a real and lasting way than to directly experience universal consciousness and thus experience and know oneness with the universal spirit/God. The teachings both give us methods to expand our awareness and directly experience God and universal consciousness, while also explaining to us the effects of universal law in simple terms, even if the law itself is difficult to understand. That statement was difficult to understand, Novice Vince said. Okay, for instance, you may not understand the complex laws of gravity that physics grapple with, but you can understand how Newton's observation of an apple falling from a tree led him to scientific concepts of what goes up must come down, right? Yes. More simply still, your experience with the law of gravity has taught you about the effects it has on your life. For instance, you wouldn't ignore the law of gravity and walk off a 30th floor balcony. Yet, how many people ignore even more important universal laws because they don't really understand their effects factually? So, the ancient Atlantean teachings offer us a way to understand the effects of universal laws on our lives and thus a way to benefit from them. Yes, I understand you now, but I want to learn more about spirituality, not physics. True spirituality is tied to universal laws, though. And if you want to consider that just plain physics, fine. But this scientific approach doesn't mean that the path of the children is a cold and clinical one. Far from it. Nowhere else will you find a more emphasis on compassion and love. Instead, the scientific basis in the teachings makes the ways and beliefs of the children of the law of one more simple and unique. As opposed to other religious orders, it is a natural religion and a more appropriately a natural spiritual path. It is natural because it is based on nature, not just the nature of this planet, but the nature of the universe. It was founded on an understanding of the way of the universe functions and endeavors to apply the laws and flows that govern it to human conditions. The ways of the children were thus developed to ensure that we are in our proper place in the grand scheme of things, rather than encouraging blind faith in an unknown God and a dogma. It encourages knowing and experiencing the universal spirit yourself and becoming one with it. By these very virtues, it is not as much a religion as it is a way of being one with all of creation and the Creator both. Nor is it just physics by any means. This is not your garden variety religion, and it has a beautiful simplicity to it. Science magic. One morning I decided to explore a bit of the central pyramid just to check out some of the incredible things. I was walking up one of the chamber halls there when all of a sudden I saw a strange moving light coming from a small side tunnel. Before I could even look into it, Zen-Uru came crawling out. He was one of the initiates at the monastery, and an adept monk who was the personal teacher of many of the elder and novice monks who worked with the monastery's energy systems. He was holding a sort of lantern/flashlight, which explains the strange light. From day one, I had heard the phrase science magic used around the monastery. Sometimes it was referring to the monastery's technology, but sometimes it was regarding the creation of our personal lives. But when the term was used in reference to the monastery's technology, it often used in the same breath as the name of the adept Zen-Uru. I had also come across references to science magic in the ancient texts in the library, but it had not been explained to me in a way of my courses yet. So I decided to ask him about it in a while I had a chance. I didn't know if he would have the time or inclination to speak to a monk like me, but it was worth a shot. Zen-Uru, if you have a moment, could I please speak with you? A moment? A moment. I suppose I do. Yes. No, it's gone now. Sorry, but yes, I'll speak with you anyway now. Can you tell me about this science magic I keep hearing about? No problem. It has been said that all the teachings of the children of the law of one are based within science magic. Have you heard that? Yes, I think so. You think so? Very well. Well, they are all based on it. Let me explain the history of that. To our ancestors, what may consider the mysteries of life were not confusing or complex, but simply a matter of applying their understanding of universal law. I just had a course about it. Good. Then you'll save me some time. Our Atlantean ancestors easily manipulated vibration using thought within a framework of scientific facts. God and spirituality were not vague concepts. The universal spirit was not unknown to them or some being that was out there somewhere. And magic and miracles were not just something that existed in fairy tales and religious parables from days gone by. They were the scientific workings of spiritual forces on physical matter. Spirituality, as well as materiality and physical form, were all simply based on scientific facts of universal law. For instance, they understood that physic phenomenon, electricity, magnetism, gravity, light, sound, space, time, and such were all related and aspects of the same thing and all followed universal laws. The barbarian cultures that lived around us or came into contact with our ancestors couldn't understand these things, so they just lumped it all together as magic. Some mysteries, something that could only be created and wielded by gods, devils, or witch doctors with strange powers and rituals. But what gives anything the appearance of magic, if not deceptive illusions or tricks? What is real magic, other than creating or altering energy and matter, which is comprised of energy? So, in a very real sense, much of what we do is magic, but it is based in science, not superstition. Thus, science magic is inherent in the children of the Law of One's entire approach to life and religion. Visualization, for instance, works like magic. You see it happening and it happens. Visualization is used successfully in everything from Zen archery to healing and all such things that have appearance of working like magic. Here, let me give you a little demonstration. He had me stand behind him and lift him up by the waist. It was easy. He asked, "You should be able to do it again." "Yes, of course," I said. "Then do so." I tried. It was like he was holding heavy weights or glued to the ground. I managed to budge him, but it took all of my efforts and strength, whereas it was easy just a moment ago. How'd you do that? Simple visualization and energy. One aspect of science magic, you will learn it in time. And if I had wanted to really put my mind to it, you wouldn't have been able to lift me at all. That's incredible. That's nothing. But while our ancestors achieved wondrous things with their science magical tools, it is not any more mysterious to us than defecating is to the uninitiated. To us, this use of the mind to create physical reality is just a simple fact of universal law science and a very fundamental one. This also applies to everything else in the children's early days on earth, such as their use of pyramids to provide power to vehicles and buildings without any visible let me read that over. This also applies to everything else in the children's early days on earth, such as their use of pyramids to provide power to vehicles and buildings without any visible connection. All their understanding of God, spirituality, and the matters of day-to-day life are based in this knowing that real magic is science and real science is magic. This lamp I am holding, for instance, it has no batteries like they use in the outside world, yet it is powered. By what? Something you can't see and you don't yet understand. Is it magic? I guess so. Is it science? I guess so. Which reminds me, I have some repairs I'm in the middle of. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for your time and teaching, Zenuru. Think nothing of it. You're quite welcome. We must have more talks, and I know you want to know more about how we are using some of the ancient technology to power things here. You'll be able to learn them easily if you wish. You have great vision and insight that few have, and I welcome discourse with you. Watch it. You'll get my ego out of hand with comments like that. I wouldn't worry about that. Zayn will assure that last of your ego is stomped to death. He's talked about you a great deal. I cringed inside. Oh, great. That's something to really look forward to. In truth, it is. You will be far wiser, more intelligent, find peace, and your place as a caring instrument of the One, once all is said and done. I replied, that sounds better than being stomped to death. He laughed. Same difference. You'll learn. Then he headed on up a shaft. The reality, practically, and day-to-day practice of science magic by the children give their teachings a substance that is rare to other paths. So while some of the spiritual teachings you will read about here may sound similar to other spiritual teachings, keep in mind that it's possible that they are based on a very different framework of understanding life and living life. A very real and practical framework, not an airy-fairy idea. And that framework can make a big difference. So, if you read something that seems like just a religious or spiritual concept, keep in mind that if you understand as a whole within the entire framework of the teachings, they are also just a fact of science magic. And in the right hands, or right minds in this case, they are each indispensable keys to understanding life, co-creating your world, and living in harmony with the universe. Complex ideas with a simple message. Because the children's path is so strongly based in universal law and what might be called realities of the universe, many of the teachings are by their very nature quite intellectual and require concentration and sometimes rereading of sentences in order to grasp them. I apologize for this, but it can't be helped. However, even though there is so much intellectual knowledge being presented in practice, it is all balanced with feeling. For the very essence of this path is very clear and very simple. Unselfish love. Everyone can understand the healing and good that comes from kindness, compassion, caring, giving, harmlessness. Those are the virtues of unselfish love, the things that really matter. And they are also ultimate keys of returning to and being in harmony with the universal spirit and what the children of the law of one are all about. For me, discovering the ancient teachings filled in many holes in my understanding. I grew more excited every day as I learned more, grew more, and the pieces fell into place. When I found this path, I felt like a man dying of thirst, discovering an oasis in the desert. To paraphrase a spiritual concept from Stranger in a Strange Land, I was given water, and now I offer you water. You may drink deep. coming up against your preconceived beliefs. Everything was smooth and rosy in my life at the monastery until I had to come to grips with my own ego issues. They caused turbulence on the flight of my growth. I will discuss this later in the book, but to summarize it briefly now, let me put it this way. Long ago, my path led me to realizations that left my previous beliefs in shambles. I had to clean house, pick up the pieces of old beliefs, review each one of my beliefs individually, and decide whether to trash it, keep it, or fix it. I ended up with a set of beliefs that are far different than those of many people. As you have read, and some of my beliefs are regarding Atlantis and the history of our existence. But you may not believe such a place ever existed, so let's say it didn't. You have already read many things that you may or may not accept or believe, and you've about to read more. Just because I believe these things and accept them as truth doesn't make it so. They may be absolutely untrue, or they may not be true to you from your perspective, or they may be absolute truth. In certain ways, it doesn't really matter, does it? Excuse me. Whatever the case may be, if you don't believe all the intellectual stuff you read in this book, it doesn't matter to us. We know the truth is only half truth at its very best. We love you. I love you. I'd like to live in peace with you and have you love me too, regardless of what we believe or don't believe. As long as we don't hurt each other and we help each other when in need, who cares what beliefs we have, religious, political, moral, or whatever? And I believe that's what's most important, because I know that unselfish love is always beneficial. That is one of my revamped beliefs, and I think it's something we should be able to universally agree upon. I can. Can you? Will you? What can it hurt? Nothing. What can it help? A great many things, like peace and kindness. So, if you do not believe the ideas contained in this book, I hope it will not matter to you what I do, as long as I am loving, kind acting, caring, thinking, harmless person. And similarly, what matters to me about you is not really what you think or believe, what religion you belong to, or if you're an atheist, but how you conduct yourself. What matters to me is whether or not you are a loving, kind acting, caring, thinking, harmless person. Unfortunately, a person's beliefs do greatly influence how they think and act, though. So while we are on the subject of beliefs and religion, let's take a closer look at effects of belief. One day I was struggling with my thoughts. I was having doubts because I was having a hard time with my ego. It wasn't the first time, and it wasn't going to be the last. But as I was sitting in the garden questioning my beliefs and trying to sort out some things, Anastasia came by and told me I should go see Zayn because I seemed upset. I reluctantly acknowledged her advice, slowly got up, and went off to find him. I found him already teaching a group of other novices, but his words were addressing my issue and concerns. I wondered if it was actually all staged for my benefit. It seemed absurd to think that, of course, and self-centered, but I was never really sure with him what he might do to teach someone something in the best way. Here was what I began to listen to on. regardless of whether or not you believe it. Your beliefs control your destiny, so they need to be closely scrutinized for what they create in your life. What you think and believe greatly affects whether or not you are a saint, an evil monster, and everything in between, like a somewhat kind person or a somewhat mean person. I was wondering what the heck he was talking about because I had just learned that what we believed was irrelevant. So I interrupted this discussion and asked, what does it really matter what beliefs we hold? I thought it didn't matter as long as people are kind, caring, compassionate, and harmless. It is another paradox in a way. It doesn't really matter what beliefs a person has, as long as the beliefs they have yield those virtues of unselfish love you just mentioned. But their beliefs may yield those virtues or yield harm and evil. Beliefs have a dominant and powerful effect on every aspect of our lives. People even kill over beliefs. We'll get into that more in depth later, but I'll continue Zain's lecture for now, because you will soon be reading religious concepts that may be in conflict with some of your own, and it may help you understand better or being more open-minded. Religious beliefs are frequently based on faith, and they are most often something we are taught to believe early in life by our family's religious beliefs and religion. Other beliefs are absorbed also from our cultures. People don't usually stop and think about the fact that something and as seemingly innocuous and insubstantial as our mere beliefs really have much effect on our lives, but they do. In fact, they not only have tremendous effects on our lives, but they also control much of our destiny. How can this be that just an idea, a belief, controls our destiny? A belief itself is but an idea. It has no real substance, but we act based upon our beliefs. The actions we take because of our beliefs have effects, and only the effects, the results of those actions, are the things we can see, feel, and grasp. This is very important to realize, because the effects of our actions, which result from our beliefs, are precisely the things that can be used to determine the value, good or bad, of any given belief. For instance, if you are kind to me because you believe we are all brothers and sisters, your kind actions are something real, something we can both know is good. Kind actions are transcendent of language, culture, and whatever you or I may believe is spiritual truth. Likewise, if you are cruel to me because of a belief, I will know it is a bad belief. These are obvious examples of course, and the results of many beliefs may be not so clear-cut. Nevertheless, all beliefs subsequently generate their own thoughts and actions, good or bad. So, what should we believe for the greatest good of ourselves and the world? Unselfishly loving all beings is a belief of the children of the law of one and the essence of the teachings. Caring about others, compassion, and kindness are qualities of unselfish love. If these are things we can all agree are good, then unselfish love can be used as a common or universal measuring stick of goodness. And if unselfish love is the result of true spirituality, these virtues can also be used as the measuring stick of spirituality. Such a measuring stick can be used to compare the manifestations of any belief and thus compare the value of any belief. So we should analyze and compare the effects of our belief. Of course, most people don't even think about what they are creating as a result of their beliefs. Do your beliefs further the manifestation of unselfish love or exhibit the manifestation of unselfish love? Do they breed anger, hatred, and harm, or tranquility, love, and healing? Do they make for a better life or a worse life? Do they make for a better world for others or a worse world? People have used their beliefs and been driven by their beliefs to hurt and murder those with different beliefs. It can be over different beliefs about economics, race, religion, you name it. People will kill over it. What insanity! Why? The teachings make it clear that the primary culprit is our separateness from universal consciousness and God. And regardless of the teachings, isn't it obvious? Separateness gives most all people of the world the basis for their belief in the illusion that we are separate beings, not one being manifesting itself in many forms. This separateness then spawns differences, and selfishness. How much harm has been done in the name of God, country, or tribe? How much horror and pain has been inflicted because someone has a different racial, national, tribal, class, or religious belief, more than we can really grasp with our limited brains. He was through talking for a moment. Zayn was a very intense being, and when he spoke intensely, I almost felt like I was getting punched in the stomach. As he got up and left the room, we all sat silent, moved, shaken up a bit, and remained in deep thought about his words for some while. Any individual who wants to grow, attain enlightenment, or be a really good person must completely reevaluate their beliefs in the light of the effects those beliefs have, where they came from, and why. So in the chapter on the subconscious programming and beliefs, we will explore the teachings on these subjects in depth. Okay, that was chapter 5. Chapter 6 is on page 62, and this is the reading of the Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. Really good information. Please comment below. Let's start a conversation about this really important and invaluable information. Until then, please remember, subscribe, like, share this video, and above all, have the most benevolent day.